Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today is Monday, which means it's time for an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a gun and customization for me to use in Battlefield 1. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below, and I will read through those comments and pick one of the top-rated ones for the next episode. Today's top comment comes from Hamza Yasser, who says, Loadout Han Solo, the C96, win a match using only the C96. Now, obviously, winning a game just using a specific weapon is not that hard of a challenge. I think what he meant was like score top of the round using the C96, and I did both those things. I scored top of my team during winning games, I scored top of my team during losing games, and I got the highest score in a match while using only the C96. Granted, our team did lose during that occasion, but I was still a couple thousand points ahead of anybody else. Now for this challenge, I chose the War Pigeon game mode as it gives me a lot of opportunities to score points in ways other than just getting kills. The C96 is only available for the medic class, so of course I had reviving and healing as one way of getting extra kills, but then in the War Pigeon game mode, if I get the pigeon itself, release it, I can get extra points that way. So it gives me a few more opportunities to try and put myself on top of that scoreboard. Now, why is the C96 the Han Solo loadout? Well, Han Solo's legendary DL44 blaster pistol is based on the C96. In fact, many of the weapons in Star Wars are based on World War I and World War II weapons. They just have a bunch of stuff added onto them. And as you can see, the base of his pistol is very much the C96 with a side-mounted scope and a bunch of other cool like little doodads added onto it. But for the most part, you can see where the pistol got its design. And one thing that I actually noticed from the Rogue One trailer, and you'll probably notice it if you go see the movie, is that Cassian Andor has the Flame Trooper's high-pressured gas tank on his back. It's sort of like a gadget that he's carrying around during the film, and I just kind of noticed that similarity. So even in the new films, they are bringing a lot of designs back from World War I, which I think is just awesome. And obviously, if you want to play with something that looks exactly like the DL44, there's always Star Wars Battlefront, and the latest expansion did focus on the Rogue One film. I actually haven't played it yet, but now that I've seen the movie, I'm kind of interested to go and check it out. Now let's take a look at the actual C96 and see how it performs. I think you can get top of the server with just about any weapon out there, save maybe the Calibri, but the C96 is definitely not in my favorite pistol category. It's not necessarily a terrible weapon out there. It can definitely kill people, but it's got a few things going against it. One of those is the reload. Now, if you fire off all of your rounds, you can reload an entire clip all at the same time, and it's a quicker reload. However, if you don't fire off all your rounds, you have to individually load the bullets each time, and that can take quite a while. It does have 10 rounds in its magazine, which isn't bad. It only does 28 damage per shot for maximum damage, so that's going to be a 4-shot kill unless your target's further away from you. 15 meters and further, this pistol starts to drop significantly in damage, so you don't really want to engage people any further away than 15 meters unless you absolutely have to. Like all pistols, it's got good hipfire accuracy, so if people are throwing down smoke and you got to pop on a gas mask, this isn't necessarily a bad weapon to run around with. It just takes a while to kill your opponents. That's the downside. I'm very used to the M1911, which has the exact same rate of fire as this weapon, only it's a 3-shot kill, while this is a 4-shot kill. So it's one extra shot. Granted, it's got a little bit more ammo than the M1911, 2 more bullets per magazine, but the M1911 has a faster reload. So many more things going for that gun than this gun. I'm not saying the C96 isn't usable or isn't a decent weapon if you only have to take out one target, but there's just better options out there, despite the nostalgia factors going for it. And as you can see, I made significant use of my melee weapon. I went for the hatchet this time around. Granted, I was using grenades and gadgets and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I was using the C96 primarily as my weapon, but I'm not going to avoid using the melee in close quarters, especially since melee is so freaking effective in Battlefield 1. And then of course, for clearing out these tunnels and narrow corridors, the pistol is not going to hold up to machine gun fire or SMG fire, so using grenades is definitely a must for getting people out of narrow corridors. Now, because I was reviving and healing, I found myself pretty much at the top of the scoreboard most games, at least top of my team's scoreboard. Sometimes it's really hard to get top of the whole server scoreboard if the enemy team is absolutely obliterating your team or they just have a better lineup and most people on your team aren't killing and you can't stay alive, or you don't have good enough backup to stay alive for long enough to get some real points. And that can be an issue, but for the most part, if you've got good game sense, you can do pretty well with just using a pistol, even when it's not a good pistol like the C96. And that's something that I think I want to talk a bit more about in future videos, is game sense. How to move around the map in a strategic way, how to use your user interface, information you get from your teammates, from the enemies, sounds, all that kind of stuff to make tactical decisions that puts you in a better chance of winning firefights. I don't just go head on into every single firefight hoping that my accuracy and my reaction time will win me firefights. I know that my accuracy and reaction time is not that great in general. It's decent, it's certainly above average, but I know I'm not like an absolutely top tier player when comparing myself to some of the really exceptional players in the world. So I have to rely on my game sense and putting myself in beneficial situations, as most really good players do, in addition to having good accuracy and reaction time. So if you can get game sense down, that will go a very long way into improving how good of a player you are. And it certainly helps make these loadout videos possible when I'm forced to use something like the C96 here, and I'm going up against people with using their favorite weapons in the game, shotgun users, SMG users, flamethrower guys. I mean, you really have to approach every situation intelligently, otherwise you're just going to get mowed down time and time again. Now, if I tried to do this loadout on, say, a conquest map, I would absolutely have to rely mostly on capturing flags in order to get to the top of a server. Getting kills would not go well on conquest maps. Most of the engagement ranges would be much further away than they are in War Pigeons game mode, and that's the only way I'm going to get kills with this loadout, is getting people in 15 meters or closer combat and just spamming this pistol as fast as I can, trying to mix in a few headshots whenever possible. But as soon as we take it into a game mode like Conquest, now I'm faced with a challenge of most of my enemies being at a medium range engagement distance, and I'm going to lose most of those firefights even to mediocre skilled players. I just can't out damage them with this pistol. And aside from just picking the right map, it's also about moving around the map in a way that makes sense. You don't want to go running through a field with a weapon that can't engage people at further ranges. Granted, you generally want to try and avoid running through the center of a field anyway. You always want to have a bit of cover close to you that you can dive behind in case the enemy just pops out of nowhere and you absolutely need to take some cover. But in this situation here, I'm always trying to play close to corners, close to areas where I know enemies are going to pop up pretty close in front of me. And that's just my general strategy. I'm not looking up to engage people at further distances. I'm trying to keep it close, up close and personal. So I'm always coming over ledges, coming around corners, finding my enemies there, trying to get the jump on them. That's another really important thing, is most of the firefights I'm going to win here are not going to be stand-up firefights where I see the enemy, they see me, we start shooting at each other. I have to get the jump on my opponent. I either have to be fighting with teammates where my teammates are being the distracting factor in that firefight, or I have to sneak up on my opponents or just scare them coming out from behind a wall and be the guy who starts shooting them first. And these rules can help out with just about any sort of class or playstyle, but at the same time, if you've got a more aggressive weapon and more powerful weapon like the Model 10 shotgun, which can pretty much outdamage just about any gun in the game in close quarters, then you can be more aggressive. You can take the fight head on to your opponent and rely on your overpowered weapon or your extremely powerful weapon in that situation to win you the firefight, rather than having to sneak up on your enemies and coming up with some weird little flanking tactic. Sometimes you can just be more deliberate, more forceful, and that's why you'll see people using the Model 10A shotgun absolutely dominating the scoreboard. Anyway, we're sort of nearing the end of this round here. I sort of run into an entire squad of guys, managed to take out 2 before going down, which is not bad for a C96 when you're hopelessly outnumbered. Unfortunately, we didn't win the round. It went on incredibly long. We launched so many pigeons were shot down, but I do manage to outscore every player in the server, only using the C96 as a primary weapon. And naturally, some of the medic abilities help bolster my score as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your loadout comments down below for next week's episode, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.